I'm a pretty logical person, pretty much equal parts logic and creative. I much more value logic over emotions. So with that being said, I studied a little bit of statistics in school, and I always were fascinated by statistical truths. Do you guys all know what that is? So things that are true generally, or if these factors line up, then they're probably true, but it's not always true, right? One of the big examples of that is how much quality father role models are needed. So kids who have a good fatherly role models are less likely to go to jail, less likely to be addicted, less likely to commit suicide, things like that. So I hear a lot, though, that, well, I grew up without a father and I turned out just fine. That's not true. And I always, right? So I always have to keep my eye roll from visibly showing and saying, that makes you an exception to the rule. That doesn't negate the statistical truth that fathers are important, right? Okay, so that's the context. A little bit of my testimony. So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are my favorite Old Testament Bible story. I'm going to read from Daniel 3:16 through 18. So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied, "O Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God whom we serve is able to save us. He will rescue us from your power, your majesty. But even if he doesn't, we want to make it clear to you, your majesty, that we will never serve your gods or worship the gold statue you have set up." So because of those 5 little words, it's my favorite, but even if he doesn't, because that's where I've always lived my life. God didn't save me from my parents dying, or from my family walking away from me, or from people that I loved and trust betraying me. We lost our pastor in our church that I faithfully served at for 10 years. And he didn't keep me from being disappointed this last year, even though he specifically gave me Romans 5:5 to meditate on, and that says that hope does not disappoint. So into my nugget. I was driving home after the November 551 service, and I was feeling a little convicted about the things I've been hearing here and learning here, and what I was believing, because I was believing what God will and will not do in my life. Not what he can and can't do, but what he will and will not. Because that's the pattern that I had established in my life. And I started listing off the things to God. I said, well, what about this? And what about that? And what about this? And what about this person? And then God said to me, your anecdote does not negate my truth.